Hi everyone, hope you're well, hope you're keeping safe. Welcome to my video, the 8th weekend of lockdown in the UK and what I'm up to in the shack. As usual, the weather today on this Saturday morning is pretty good. The sun's been out, it's not a completely clear sky, but nevertheless it's warm and it's not been too windy of late. My antennas are still in one piece. My collinear still standing against all the odds. One thing I did do last night actually was before the Harwell Amateur Radio Society Friday night net, I thought I'm going to see if I can make my G5RV tune on top band, which is 160 meters. I've done this before with my G5RV in Abingdon by accident. I literally moved my radio into the back of my office and then attached 2 lengths of coax to it, probably 50 or 60 meters long, and whereas before I did that it wouldn't match on top band at all, it did perfectly. So I sort of tried to replicate that. I disconnected one of my mag loops and used that RG58 to add an extra length of probably 40 meters, I would say at least, to the RG58 on the ladder line, to basically just increase the length of coax from this point to the radio. And guess what? When I tried to match it with my MFJ 949, it was fine up to about 30 watts, but as soon as I started transmitting above 30 watts on it, it started arcing inside the matching unit, inside the MFJ, so I had to give up on that. So which is fine, but what I now have to do is replace all the self-amalgamating tape that I dug up. That's one job I've got to do. Interestingly, I was talking to G1ZMA, who's is also a radio ham. He works for me actually. We're so we're sort of friends as well. And he mentioned to me that he doesn't transmit, I don't think, on FT8, but he mentioned to me that he'd copied FT8 signals from, I think he said Sudan or South Sudan, on 6 meters, and it reminded me that I had not that I haven't done. I don't think I've ever done FT8 on 6 meters until now. For the past few weeks, I've had it running in the background while I've been at home on 2 meters, and so late last night, I managed to match my G5RV on 50 megahertz. What I did was to be safe though, what I actually did was, rather than just tune to 50313, which is the FT8 frequency for 6 meters, some of you would have seen this before, but basically I matched it. I set the MFJ using this, my Metrovna antenna analyzer. I don't know how much this costs because I got it as a present, but it is absolutely superb, and it's pretty accurate because once I set the frequency on the radio and then adjust the match with set the frequency on here and adjust the match on the MFJ, and then plug the MFJ back into the back of the radio, it needs hardly any adjusting whatsoever. So I don't recommend antenna tuners as such because I don't know anything about how any of them work particularly, or their accuracy, but this is actually really, seems to be really accurate. So anyway, so I managed to get the G5RV matched, which is a bit weird. I think 50 megahertz the start of VHF, so I'm effectively using an HF antenna on what is considered to be a VHF band, but it seems to be working quite well because I've had it running this morning, and I'll keep this running this afternoon, and my signal, I haven't actually made any contacts yet. It's because it's only been running about half an hour, but there you go. There's a path has opened up into this sort of southeast Europe, not as down to Italy, but there you go. Bosnia and Herzegovina, I've been decoded twice by 2 stations, and a bit further north around Ljubljana area, been decoded twice. So this is something I'm going to be doing this weekend, because obviously in terms of, well, not DX, however you want to call it, being decoded at further, more by more distant stations than on 2 meters. 6 meters is obviously going to get you a bit further. There you go. Actually, half an hour ago, I was decoded in Scotland. So that's interesting. So I'm going to do that, and it's quite good because you can have that running in the background while you're kind of like doing other stuff, which is sort of how I like to roll, really. The other thing is that I'm literally running out of space. I've already got 2 computers in my shack. That computer there is dedicated to running FT8, and I do that all the time. I do also use it for Skype calls now and then, but usually when I'm working, and I make Skype calls with my MacBook or my work laptop. And then this computer is dedicated to monitoring my FT8 signal. So that is how this works. But I've spent the last 2 months also in here with my work computer jammed into this space. So I've basically had like 3 laptops running, and there just wasn't enough space. So I sort of bit the bullet, and I set up. I've got a spare room. I mean, it's basically had a sofa in it, but I set up a spare room as an office. So I now, rather than work out of my Radio Shack, which is what I've been doing for 2 months, which has been fine. I mean, it's not as if the work hasn't been getting done, but it's just a bit more comfortable. So I've set up this office in here downstairs in a spare room to basically release a bit of pressure on keeping my shack tidy. And my shack is definitely not very tidy at all. There's some cheeky subscribers have actually pointed out. So what I'll be doing now probably is I'll definitely be having a bit of a tidy up. I've actually already started, believe it or not, and but there you go. It does definitely need a bit of a tidy up. Like I said before, we're just lucky that we have such a brilliant hobby that can be done at home. If I didn't have this hobby of radio, I would literally I'd be going nuts by now, I think, after 2 months. So really lucky. The other thing that I'm gonna do is due to some furniture rearranging in the living room, I've had to take the ICOM R75 ICR75 out of here because I didn't actually have anywhere to put it. I've still got the Wellbrook loop terminated, so that still comes into the living room, but there's nowhere to actually put the ICOM, and because it's mains powered and it's a bit unwieldy to keep moving around, I don't want to keep moving it every time I use it. So I've put the ICOM back in the shack,
very strong in your ability,
which is sort of I'm happy about and not happy about at the same time, because it was nice having that in the living room. But I was kind of sat here sort of thinking, well, what radio am I going to replace it with? Because I do like having a shortwave radio in the living room now. I kind of got used to it. So in the end, I just thought, hello, this is perfect. The low HF 150, which I know is a radio that a lot of you like. To make the point of its portability, I've literally attached the telescopic from my Upitero airband just for now, because you can actually set this radio to work with a whip. So there you go. I think there's a setting for I think that says attenuation. I haven't got glasses on, but I think it's attenuated, whip, and then basically a bigger antenna. And so effectively, although it looks like a miniature desktop, it's actually completely portable. Is this now the world's best performing portable radio? A low HF 150 with a telescopic antenna. It's worth a thought, isn't it? So I'm going to move this radio, I'm going to move that into the living room. And so all those kind of DX videos that I've been doing when I've woken up on the sofa at like 5 o'clock in the morning, or got up early especially, I'm going to use the low. And there is method to the madness, because this, in terms of its performance, this radio, I mean, it is simply amazing. And I know that on the back of a lot of the videos I've done with this radio over the past sort of year or two, it is now sort of turning out to be quite a sought after radio. The HF225 is, I think, probably even better performing, but this is a perfect radio for using anywhere in the house. If you've got a bit of time, if you have got a bit of time to sort of sit around and do a bit of DXing, or look at it, transatlantic medium wave DX. I've done that on this radio, in the past. So and it's perfect because it just means that I can take this radio, and whereas with the ICOM ICR 75, it's difficult to move around at short notice because you've got power supply and all the rest of it. I can just pick this up off the shelf, plug in the Wellbrook, and go. So I'm going to put this in the living room, and then at least for the time being, that is going to be my HF receiver when I'm too lazy to get up and walk into here, which, believe it or not, sometimes I am at 11 o'clock at night or midnight or later. So yeah. So that is something else I'm going to be doing this weekend. And look at this. So this is great timing. I think this must be my first ever contact on 6 meters. Let me just put my glasses on. If the station Golf 4 Delta Bravo Limo sends back a 7.3, which you might not. Sod's law, isn't it, really? Then I think that's probably my first ever contact on 6 meters. Now, it's possible I've tried FT8 on 6 meters before, but I can't remember doing it. It's equally as possible. There you go, 7.3 done. So there you go, my first contact on FT8. I'm not using 50 watts, I'm using 40 watts. Put a comment there. First ever contact, I think. I'll put on 6 meters, question mark. So there you go. So that was good timing. If it is indeed my first ever contact on 6 meters, I think it is. I don't remember ever. The first time I tried to match the G5RV to 50 megahertz was when me and some of the guys from Harwell Amateur Radio Society were sort of trying to have a chat a few days ago, and we thought, well, let's try 6 meters, and then we tried 80 meters because obviously we were all sort of fairly close by. In the end, we got on 2 meters, and we all connected to Golf Bravo 3 Whiskey Hotel, which is a repeater, which I think is near Swindon, and all 4 of us managed to have a sort of 4-way conversation, which was great. But other than that, and that was only 2 or 3 days ago, I don't remember actually ever trying to match the G5RV to 6 meters. So there you go. My first ever contact, I believe, on 6 meters FT8. So I'm going to be carrying on with this. Distances easier to achieve than on 2 meters, although I do enjoy 2 meters. All is well. I don't know if you've noticed, if you're wondering why I've got a pair of 20 by 50 binoculars on a tripod, it isn't because I'm a bird spotter. Although, saying that, I do actually find that quite interesting. There's basically nothing behind my garden except a kind of wilderness. And there is quite a lot of sort of bird life sort of flying around, so I do have a look at that. But the reason I got it out was because when it was windy, I just said it hasn't been that windy, but there was one day where it was quite windy, and I saw something flapping on my collinear, and I thought, well, I am not going to take all that down now because that would be a complete pain. And so I got the binoculars out, put them on a sort of tripod, and just left them there. So for the next time it is windy, I'll be able to just have a look and see if there's any damage. But what I thought was some tape or something flapping around was actually the coaxial cable, the RG58, which is kind of just bunched up a bit underneath the downplane radials, if you can see there. So it all was good. Yeah, that's why I'm not sort of spying on the neighbours, honestly. But that's why these binoculars are out. Quite like having a pair of binoculars. It's quite nice actually when I go out on my bike to take binoculars with you, and particularly if I go to Pinsley Wood, because you can hear. I've seen woodpeckers, great spotted woodpeckers at Pinsley. You do look like a massive geek if you're out on your bike and you've got a pair of binoculars around your neck or sort of across your shoulder. You do really look like a massive geek, probably a bigger geek than if you go out carrying a radio. I don't know, but I have actually, I must admit, I have actually done that. So yeah, but at the moment I'm just using them just to keep tabs on my antennas, which, you know, a true radio hand wouldn't describe my antenna, my my antenna farm as a permanent installation. It's all a bit of a lash up, but that's how I like it. And why bother spending God knows how much on a gantry if you don't need to? So there you go. So that's what I'm up to this weekend. Yeah, looking forward to having a tune around on the HF 150. You know, like I said, thank goodness we have a hobby that is that can do that. You know, that is so interesting, can be done at home. You know, take your mind off what's going on. I mean, what's going on is literally horrendous. You know, I was hoping, well, praying really, that the situation was improving for everybody. I mean, but then I hear yesterday on the BBC that the R number is creeping up back towards 1, and if it goes any higher than that, that's the point at which the virus will start spreading very, very quickly, which is a complete nightmare, of course, for everybody. So, you know, everybody needs to basically do their own thing, but stay at home. What's interesting is that the police are issuing thousands of fines to people who are just ignoring social distancing. I don't know how anybody could be so stupid. Literally, what the hell are you doing? You know, if enough people haven't died already, you know, and the penny still hasn't dropped, there's no hope for those people, and let alone no help for them. It's literally crazy. You know, I just find it absolutely ridiculous that situation even exists. But there you go. Okay, well, I think that's about it from me. I hope you all have a great weekend. I wish you all amazing DX and great weekends. As I said, keep safe, everybody, and no doubt I'll be here next Saturday to record the next video in this instalment. So 73s, everybody, and thanks for watching.